difference. I know I'm talking to it. Yeah, that's right. Everyone's raising their hand and talking to the crowd. But we are here today at Idea Fest because it is ideas that end up changing the world and make an impact. And I'm excited to see everyone here because it takes ideas to make a big effect, what I would maybe call a ripple effect. Mother Teresa has a quote that says, "I alone cannot change the world, but I can toss a stone to create many ripples." I think that's important to say again. I alone cannot change the world, but I can toss a stone to create many ripples. I want to take you on a journey with me to Africa, where I went 25 years ago and learned the power of that quote. I was 25 at the time, and it was my first time to a developing country. And it was a stark contrast to my life here in Vancouver. In Africa, think about Africa. I expected to see elephants, and I saw elephants. It was so exciting. What I didn't expect to see is elephants walking through town. And not that that's an everyday occurrence, but I didn't expect to see that. And I expected to see children. Africa has one of the largest populations of young children. And so I saw lots of children. But what I didn't expect to see is kids in town during the day, because it wasn't a holiday. But what I learned was kids sometimes can't go to school because their parents can't afford the tuition. In a lot of African countries, tuition is not free. You pay for uniforms and tuition, and the family has to pay that. The other thing that was a stark reality to me is how many girls in particular I saw. And I learned that some of the girls can't go to school because there would be preference to pay for the boy if there are many children in the family. The boy would be the one if they could afford to send one to go to school. But the girls who could go to school, I also learned are often not in school because they can't afford the materials or supplies during their period. They don't have menstrual products. If you think about that, that's like 25% of their time in school. And that was just amazing to me as a 25-year-old in an environment that I had never been in, and it really made an impact. And it was heartbreaking to me to learn that, particularly because I was privileged, like many of us, to go to school and have that. I was not privileged, though, to be able to afford to go to college and go beyond. I couldn't afford to go to college, and I had to work and pay my way to do that. But here I'm seeing girls who can't even go to grade school, let alone high school and finish, for what seemed like very basic needs to me at the time. The girls I met were happy and they were eager to learn, but they needed to contribute to their family by earning money, and there were really few models or opportunities for them to do that. And I knew I could buy supplies for the girls. I knew I could come up with a simple solution, but I really wanted to make more of a difference. And at the time, it was like, I don't know how to do that. It really quite seemed overwhelming. But it really left an impression with me on that first trip to Africa. And with time, I've learned that I could make a positive impact and, in my own way, change the world. It was 15 years after that first trip to Africa that I found a way to make a difference and make a difference in those girls' lives in a way that became reality, and I felt was going to be more than a Band-Aid for them. And it came to fruition through the formation of a nonprofit that has now been running for 15 years that provides mentorship clubs. So through that journey, I've discovered 3 practical steps that I think are important for anyone who wants to make a difference and change the world. The first step is to know yourself. Now, I know that kind of sounds basic, but we have heard today that people are making a difference through their passion, and I think that is one of the first steps in knowing yourself. What are you passionate about? What gets you out of bed in the morning? For me, I was really passionate about figuring out a path to help those girls, and it took me a long time to do it, but that passion is what drove me to figure something out and actually make it happen. So for you as an individual, I think figuring out what you're passionate about, because that is what's going to carry you through and keep you motivated to do what you want to do. I have a lot of ideas come at me, and that I think of in my own head, or that come to me, and I think, you know what, that one's not for me because I don't have enough passion to fuel that to fruition. So having passion is one of the most important things about knowing yourself. Another aspect of knowing yourself is knowing what your superpower is. We call it a secret sauce in our office. Like, everyone has a unique something that you have a talent for. And that you might be a relationship builder, an organizer, any number of strengths that you might have. But knowing what your superpower is and what strengths that you have that are your natural talents, if you by chance, because I know we have some WSUV kids in the room, which is awesome, like, you probably know what you like to do, but if you don't know your strengths yet, I encourage you to talk to people who know you. Ask people who know you well, what are my strengths? What do I do well? What do you think I excel at? Knowing and understanding what your strength is and marrying that with your passion is important for you to know where you fit into an idea that you might have. In addition to your passion and strength, I think it's important that you look at what you're willing to risk. And I mention this because a lot of people think I'm a risk taker. They say that to me a lot. And I always say I take calculated risks. Because there's risks inherent in everything that we do. Getting up and talking, introducing yourself to someone, there's those simple risks, but there's risks every day. But understanding what risk you're willing to take to move your idea forward is imperative for you to see how you fit into that idea. And no one changed the world, by the way, without taking risk. You have to know what your level of risk is and where you're willing to push that. I'm an entrepreneur, and by nature, I have a lot of ideas, and not all of them are in my wheelhouse. So I filter those ideas down by what I'm passionate about, because I know that will fuel me. I also look at what my strengths are, because I'm not a social media person, but I am the person who is going to, even the ones that are in my wheelhouse are too many to pursue. So I filter those down through what I'm passionate about, what my strengths are, and I also keep those risks in my peripheral view as I move forward toward things that are important to me. So knowing yourself is the first step. The second step is to practice curiosity. Ideas are the spark of something. They are not the final result. And we've had a lot of great ideas today, but those are just the spark. And practicing curiosity is what you have in developing an idea, and it helps you move your path forward. So being curious and being open to ideas that are different from your own, and finding a solution that may be something that you aren't anticipating, that's part of practicing curiosity. When I came back from Africa, I was really compelled to make a difference, but I didn't have enough information, but I was very curious, and I worked with others to find out how I could make a difference that would be sustaining and not just a Band-Aid to something. I really recognize, and I think it's part of practicing curiosity, that I didn't know, let alone nothing. I certainly didn't have enough information to be successful. And so talking to people and being curious and being open to ideas that I had never considered and that weren't my own, but fit into the vision that I had, was very important. In the end, the idea was to partner with people on the ground in Africa, because we knew it needed to be a grassroots solution and not come in with our ideas. And so by practicing curiosity and meeting people and figuring out what worked in each of the communities that we were working in, that is what got us to a solution. The third step is to think big. The first two pieces of knowing yourself and practicing curiosity are really focused inward on you knowing yourself, you being willing to take risks and ask questions and pursue something. But the third one of thinking big is an expansion of your view, and doing those first two things is an expansion of your view and even more possibilities and creating perspective. That is thinking big. To move beyond thinking realistically and toward what might seem improbable or even possible. Now, thinking big, sometimes you're like, I can only do so much, so I'm not gonna think too big. But thinking big is recognizing you don't have to do it all. Thinking big is what we're doing today, and recognizing where you can bring other people along, not only the strengths that complement your strengths in carrying out a vision, but also recognizing that together we are stronger as a community. And so thinking big is not only having that bigger perspective and recognizing what might be possible and going beyond what you're thinking, but it's also bringing others along and recognizing the benefits and strengths that they have. Today, our nonprofit serves over 1,000 kids a year. We served over 10,000 in the last 15 years. And we have mentorship clubs for girls, which is where we started. But on the thinking big side, having been at this for a while and now having more demand for our clubs than we could really even imagine, we not only have mentorship club for girls, but we now have clubs for boys that are specifically focused on empowering girls in a culture where men saw girls as for their benefit. And so now, in us thinking big, we have clubs that now serve both girls and boys for girls' empowerment, and it has brought together not only families and the schooling and the community, but we are looking at a model and trying to replicate, offering to replicate that to others. So we've gone well beyond what we originally intended with our nonprofit. But that was thinking bigger, because as people come together, those ideas grow. As Megan said that in the opening, that having an idea and being a visionary requires rigor, and changing the world takes work. I get tired sometimes, I really do. But I tell you what, going back to that passion, it's what keeps me motivated, and I love the work that I do. I feel like those things help me keep at it. And in sharing my story, I hope you will be empowered to take steps to change the world by knowing yourself, what is uniquely you. By practicing curiosity, create sparks and stay open to the unexpected, and to think big and see and believe in possibilities. And I hope you will cast that stone that creates many ripples. Thank you.